This fight takes place on the undercard of the Michael Spinks-Larry Holmes rematch, and despite commentator Colonel Bob's praise of Buster Douglas here, Tyson's future conqueror is still seen as a hot and cold prospect at best. Douglas came into this fight fresh off a decision win over Greg Page, but before that he lost to Jesse Ferguson in the ESPN heavyweight tournament, giving him a reputation as a fighter who may or may not come in shape for his bouts. However, Douglas shows up in solid form here, weighing in at a fit 232 pounds. He's lighter on his feet and more aggressive than in previous performances. In the opposite corner is Dave Jaco, a fighter best described as gangly at 6'6" and 205 pounds. Despite his lanky frame, Jaco is a tough, stubborn competitor. His story is one of survival. He worked as a pipe fitter in Toledo, Ohio, earning $400 a week until the steel mill closed. Needing a way to make money, he won a tough man contest and turned to professional boxing. He has enough firepower to defeat fellow journeymen, but falters when stepping up in class. His biggest victory to date came in an upset over the previously undefeated Razor Ruddock. In that fight, Jaco was behind on points but managed to turn the tide, with Ruddock unable to answer the bell for the 8th round. For this bout, Jaco earns $5,000, and he's coming off a fresh divorce with his wife, who moved to Florida with their twin boys. He's one of those journeyman fighters who takes whatever fights he can to survive and make a payday.
Now it's an 8-round fight for the timing leading up to the Michael Spinks-Larry Holmes IBF World Heavyweight Championship fights. Again, Douglas 21-3 in the white trunks. David Jaco coming off a fight a couple of months ago where he was stopped in the first round by Michael Tyson. He was knocked down 3 times in that, so he's a tough cookie. Big, tall, 6'6" David Jaco in the blue trunks, nailed already by the left hook of James Douglas. Douglas, his last time out, won a decision over the former WBA heavyweight champion of the world, Greg Page. So the people that handle James Douglas are thrilled with his progress and looking for him to fight anybody. I understand that the people that handle Mike Tyson don't want to fool around with Douglas. So you get the idea that Douglas in the white trunks is going to be somebody to be reckoned with in the heavyweight division. Douglas hard to the body.
Hold her up, step back, clean now, no punching. Get out, get out.
Tyson scheduled to fight Eddie Gregg shortly. Again, the principals here, David Jaco in the blue trunks, James Douglas in the white trunks, an up-and-coming heavyweight, a guy that they want to train down to about 220. He's in magnificent shape even at 232 and a quarter, but they want to reduce the body fat level. There's all this talk about that lately in sports, to keep the body fat down to under 10 to 7%. Good right hand landed by James Douglas. You see the time remaining in round number 1, inside of 5 seconds now. Round number 2, scheduled again for 8 rounds. It was scheduled to be a 10-rounder, but for timing reasons, they've cut it back to an 8-rounder.
Hold it, hold it. Come on back, come on back.
James Douglas in the white trunks, David Jaco in the blue trunks.
Step out, step out.
I thought Douglas won the first round, but really nothing really impressive in the first round. But you heard what his corner had to say. J.D. McCauley talking about being a little bit too relaxed in the first round, and he's picking up the pace here in round 2.
Your elbows. Move to your left, Jack.
Actually, Douglas started rather slow in the fight against Greg Page, and then along about the 6th, 7th, and 8th round, he really came on and did a nice job, and I thought finished out the fight rather strongly. It was a close fight the way I had it scored, but I think the judges realized that Douglas was turning things around a little bit quicker than perhaps most at ringside realized. Douglas is a good one. Oh, nice right uppercut, and Jaco has to hang on. Jaco was hurt by that. You can see his knees a little bit wobbly. A tall, lanky fella, really creased by that right uppercut. I don't like to see a fighter do that. I'd rather see him snap that left out there. Wild as Jaco with his right hand. Wild with the right hand goes James Douglas. He has the ability, and remember, while his coaches say to me that he's still learning, he already has defeated one of the several recent heavyweight champions, and Greg Page, who defeated Jerry Coetzee, who defeated Michael Dokes. So that'll give you an idea of the strength that perhaps James Douglas would have. Good right hand again, landed the left hook. Douglas trying to finish Jaco off. See referee Davey Pearl saying, watch that elbow. We're in round number 2. You see the time remaining. Inside of coming up to the 22nd mark now of the second round. Much more impressive round for James Douglas here in round number 2.
No holding now. Punch out.
Davey Pearl, one of the fine referees in all of boxing, doing an excellent job again. 8-round heavyweight battle. James Douglas again in the white trunks. David Jaco just then on the receiving end of the right hand in the blue trunks with a white trim. Jaco doesn't appear to have the power to do anything with James Douglas. Douglas in 21 wins. Has only 14 knockouts.
Hold it up, get up. Come on.
He's been trained in the Nautilus program. He's gaining strength and speed with the weight loss. So he's improving all the time. Jaco, tough sort of guy. But Tyson took him out early. Stopped him. Down 3 times in the first round. Make no mistake about it, Jaco is nowhere near the caliber fighter of a Greg Payne.
Hold it up, hold it up.
However, you see little things in a fighter, in aggressiveness, in training, conditioning, and I see all these things as a positive force to James Douglas. Nice right uppercut again. Just missed the uppercut that time. A little bit wild with his punches. Tried to nail Jaco coming off the ropes, but couldn't execute it. Once again, Davey Pearl warns Douglas about the roughhouse tactics. Jaco game and tough. 19-6 with 18 knockouts. He's from Toledo, Ohio. Giving up an awful lot of weight. He came in at 205.5. And of course, Douglas just nailed him with the right hand in at 232. That's an awful lot of weight. Davey Pearl will warn again. Douglas is so aggressive. It was a type of move that made him look so bad, but it was also the type of thing that he didn't really mean to do viciously. It's just he wants to win the fight so bad that he did something that was a bad-looking move when he pushed that left hand in the face of David Jaco.
Move side to side, baby.
Nice body shot that time. Jaco does a lot of things very well, too. You see the way he came off the ropes that time? And right away, Douglas walks him right back towards him, controlling the pace and timing of the fight, getting himself in position to unload shots. Again, Douglas is giving up a bit in reach here to Jaco, but Douglas is doing such a good job inside, it really doesn't make any difference here. I don't believe that Jaco has the type of power it would take to take out the finely conditioned body of James Douglas anyway, so the reach advantage is really negligible here. They're on hand here. You've seen a few of them already. Here we go, round 4. I'm Bob Sheridan. This fight is coming to you live from the Las Vegas Hilton Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada. An exciting night of boxing yet to come. The IBF Heavyweight Championship fight. The return match of Michael Spinks and Larry Holmes. David Jaco in the blue trunks. James Douglas in the white trunks to the left of your screen, cruising along, building up points. In my opinion, he's won all 3 of the first 3 rounds.
Come on, Jaco.
Jaco tries to do things, and when he goes to hit Douglas, he's not there. Douglas nails him with a light right hand. A lot of speed in the right, but wasn't deep enough into him.
Hands up.
Douglas shows the ability to slip punches with a side-to-side movement. So far, he hasn't really been able to nail the tall, lanky Jaco. He hit him that time and backed Jaco off. Jaco perhaps in better condition than I thought he was, but you see Douglas again lunging at him, and he does little things like that that don't make him look good and things he doesn't have to do, but it's part of the learning aspect, I think, with James Douglas, more than really wanting to rough it up. You can tell he sincerely apologized to Jaco for when he had that hand in his face in the last round. So it's the type of things that aggressiveness is bringing out in it more than well, perhaps being a dirty fighter, in no way would I consider him to be a dirty fighter. Just very, very aggressive, and maybe frustrated a bit that he hasn't been able to take Jaco out. Or it's a pretty good round for Jaco. He's a bit more aggressive.
All right, step back, step back.
Douglas would want to pick up the pace a bit here. He could lose this round. You see the timing. I think unaggressive. This is round 5. Again, scheduled 4-8, originally scheduled 4-10. Bit of puffiness around the left eye of David Jaco. Neither fighter has been down, neither fighter visibly shaken. One time in the early going, Jaco looked a little bit weak in the knees as a result of the right hand. Now you can see Douglas back up on his toes a bit in this round, so perhaps he's been pacing himself or paced himself a bit in round 4. I thought he might have given away round number 4, but the judges will make the final determination of that should it go the distance. Also, you notice what a great job of coaching Johnny Johnson and J.D. McCauley have done along with William Douglas, in that Douglas does such a fine job at picking off the shots that are coming at him. When the right hand comes, it doesn't land. The left jab is weak, and you can see the nice defensive work there of Jaco. In my experience in Las Vegas, if you're not the aggressor, you can lose a round here. And one thing that's good about that in Las Vegas is if you're not an aggressive fighter, you don't want to fight here too often, but they're very consistent. You really get a fair shake by judging in Las Vegas and under the Nevada State Athletic Commission. I think Douglas is going to get a little bit more active with the right hand now. Go on the offense a bit more. Jaco being worn down a bit. You can see a little bit of wobbliness for the first time in the knees since really back in the second round when he was nailed with a pretty good right hand. I know that Douglas is in superb condition. Jaco, who has a long, lean body, I really don't know how well he's conditioned for the fight. I do know when he was knocked out in the early going by Mike Tyson that he took that fight in a day and a half notice. So with that in mind, anything could have happened. We're at the end of round number 5, 6. Again in the white trunks, James Douglas. In the blue trunks, David Jaco. Good right hand. Much more aggressive now looks James Douglas. And I think that's exactly what the people in the corner of Douglas told him. Hey, let's pick up the pace and make a real impressive show for yourself here. Again, we're in round 6. Neither fighter has been down, but Douglas has picked up the pace here tremendously in round number 6. Jaco, I must say, is a game-tough cookie. Puffy underneath both cheeks. Hasn't been down. Been wobbled a couple of times. Looks almost like he's getting a second wind here in round 6, though.
Your hands up.
Uppercut, a right uppercut that time, bouncing the head back of David Jaco. Davey Pearl, one of the smaller referees, having a bit of difficulty separating a guy 232 and a guy 205. I'll tell you one thing, what Davey Pearl gives up in size, he certainly has in the mannerisms and ability to control a fight. One of the great referees in all of boxing. Nice left hand, nails Jaco. You see the time remaining in round 6. Another left hand, and down goes Jaco. He'll be able to get up. It's up to about 5. Jaco disgusted.
6, 7.
He considered himself that he was pushed over a slip. Doesn't like the idea that they counted that as a knockdown, but it officially will be scored as a knockdown. 7th round. This is scheduled 4-8. James Douglas in command in the driver's seat. I have him winning every round but the 4th round, but he offset that rapidly by winning the 6th round by 2 points. I have it scored unofficially 59-54 through 6. We're in the 7th round. I'm Bob Sheridan here on the world feed for Don King and Butch Lewis on the dynamic duo presentation card, which will lead to the Michael Spinks Larry Holmes IBF World Heavyweight Championship fight that will be coming up very, very shortly following this fight. Fourth round, I thought he coasted in, but the conditioning shows here that he is really in good shape. And you see him continue to use the roughhouse tactics of using the forearms and whatnot, which he really doesn't need to use. And I think you'll see in future fights that they'll break him of that habit. It's an aggressive habit rather than, I hate to even use the word dirty. A lot of people would be considered dirty for doing it. Now blood begins to trickle down the nose of David Jaco. Good right hand, lands him on the nose. He's very wobbly right now on the knees. You see in the shot that he tries to get up and get some circulation going through those legs. But you can see by the way he's hanging on that he is certainly fatigued at the 22nd mark remaining in round number 7. Walks into the left hand. Now this is where Douglas needs to learn to finish. Can't say enough about the gameness of Jaco. He's an athlete. He's a tough cookie hanging in there. All right, the 8th and final round as the combatants touch glove. It's been a good fight. Been a good fight, a good test for Douglas. And Jaco, I'll have to say, has impressed me in that I think that Douglas has more ability in my observation and opinion. I think he's probably better trained and conditioned. And Jaco, pure heart, has hung in there very, very good throughout this fight. We're in round 8. You see Douglas trying to pick up the pace now. Davey Pearl, 3rd man in the ring. The blood on the trunks of James Douglas is coming from the nose of David Jaco. Douglas now trying to finish off Jaco. Jaco remembers last time out took a fight on a day-and-a-half notice against Mike Tyson and ran into a buzzsaw. Douglas again tries the backhand finishing. All these little things, I think, Coach Jimmy Johnson, I said Jimmy, I mean Johnny Johnson. Jimmy Johnson, the football coach at Miami. Johnny Johnson, the former coach at Ohio State. And I think Johnny will refine all these little things. But certainly to goodness, James Douglas has all the ability and a new face in the heavyweight division. A new face that is rapidly going to be moving up in the top 10. Again, Davey Pearl trying to avoid anyone getting nailed by an elbow in there. Nice right hand landed. Jaco waves Douglas to come on to him, and Douglas reciprocates by staying right on top of him.
Don't punch, I said. Don't punch. Get out.
Jaco's certainly more fatigued at this point in round number 8, and I think he's probably more pleased than anybody that this was dropped from a 10-rounder to an 8-rounder. Jaco game all the way. Nice sort of guy. Met him for the first time today. Very, very nice fella. I'd like to see him be a lot more successful because he really is putting his heart out for you. But James Douglas has the ability and really going to be moving, as I mentioned, up in the top 10 rankings. Douglas, of course, coming off the win over Greg Page, which vaulted him right into this position of moving up in the rankings. Jaco, a guy that's been around, 25 professional fights, 18 knockouts, but really not in the quality of the top 10 type of fighter that James Douglas is. You see the time now remaining inside of 10 seconds, so there'll be no knockout. And the bell ends the fight. A nice fight for James Douglas and a nice effort by David Jaco.
Ladies and gentlemen, all three judges, Dalby, Shirley, Art Lurie, and Chuck Giampa, score the bout 80-71 for the winner by unanimous decision, James Douglas.
All right, James Douglas, a winner by unanimous decision.
Jaco was likely the heavyweight division's top trial horse from the mid-1980s to 1994, facing nearly the entire top 20 of that era. His biggest payday came in 1989, earning $10,000 for a fight against George Foreman, though he was stopped in the first round. Later, Jaco's twin sons followed in his footsteps, becoming boxers, while he transitioned into a role as a boxing trainer in Florida. Meanwhile, Buster Douglas had one more fight before challenging Tony Tucker for the IBF heavyweight title, a bout in which he lost by 10th round knockout. Afterward, Douglas was largely written off by the boxing world, but he staged a comeback with a 6-fight win streak that culminated in his historic upset victory over Mike Tyson in 1990.